Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Horses and Mouth Live, the Extraordinary Advisor Show. My name is Ellen Rogin, and as always, I have guests to provide great information to help you in every area of your life, especially your business. And we have a topic today that I'm really excited about. I have never talked about this specifically on an Extraordinary Advisor Show, and we're talking about client events. And these are so helpful for growing your practice. They're also helpful for shining a light on you and the work that you do. And they've changed over the years. And we have two experts with us today that I'm so excited about. We have Elyse Stoner and Angela York with us, and they were referred by a friend of mine in the industry because she was so excited and impressed with the work that they do. And I really haven't met consultants in the industry that specifically help advisors with their events. So let me give you a little bit about their background before we get into actually hearing their expertise today. So I'm excited to introduce you to Elyse Stoner and Angela York. They're the driving force behind Event Advisors. And they work together to bring and collaborate, bringing together Elyse's extensive background in sports, entertainment, and higher education event marketing, which is so cool to come from outside of the industry, and then combine that with Angela's deep experience as an advisor in advisor marketing and event planning within the financial services industry. And they offer really a fresh and innovative approach and strategies, really revolutionizing the approach that advisors can take with client relationship events. And so super excited to get into this. So the world has changed post-COVID, and now there's online events and hybrid events and hopefully still in-person events. And I'm curious, like, what are some of the innovative formats or themes that you've seen advisors use to create really more engaging and memorable experiences for clients?
I would say, first of all, thank you for having us. We're super excited to have this conversation with you because we are event nerds. And so I think from that innovative point of view, that's what we're all about. It's about really focusing the event on what the client wants versus what the advisor either thinks they should have or that they know about things and stuff and that they should be telling their clients about that things and stuff. So the innovation is coming in to think about client events. Yes, you can do education, but it's about deepening relationships with the clients and giving them opportunities to talk about how fabulous you as the advisor are to their people when you're not in the room and they're not in the room.
I think it's really interesting to think about what clients would want for events, because I don't think that is ever I mean, not never, because you don't want to do something they would hate and nobody shows up or that are boring or don't show you in a good light. But how do advisors know what their clients would like in terms of an event?
I get asked this question all the time. How do I know what my clients would like? Because one of the biggest problems I have, I'm speaking from the advisor's point of view, is people don't come or not many come. And really that boils down to what are their interests. And we look at, we actually walk our clients through a questionnaire. Ask your clients what type of events they're interested in. What topics for educational events are they interested in? What fun events interest them? What sports interest them? And collect that data. And it can be done via a survey. It can be, you can ask those questions or have a one sheet in your review meetings. You can pepper in some questions in your emails. You can ask them in events. We always encourage advisors to really and the team, the stakeholders, to really make those questions part of their all their conversations that they have with clients, and make it casual. Because putting the hat on of the attendee, there's so much noise out there right now, and so many events and so much email and so many competing priorities. We want to attend events that interest us, that we think are going to provide value to us. We're not just looking to fill the calendar. Everybody's calendar is already very filled. So from the advisor's point of view, if you host an event that speaks to those that you're inviting, they're going to come. And then when they attend, you start having those conversations and getting to know them based on their interests. And we'll go into this in a little bit. It's really a whole wheel. You have an event they're interested in, creates conversations while you're there. Then you take that back to your meetings and the relationship you have, and that just turns into a very sticky client relationship, naturally referable, natural introductions to the beneficiaries and the children. It just goes on and on. And as far as what types of events, we get this asked all the time too, is virtual, in person, big or small. Ask your clients, what do they prefer? Are they working? Do they prefer evening events? How far from their home would they like to travel? Do they like to bring a friend? Do they prefer educational or social? And then you put all that together.
Yeah, I was wondering if there's certain events that lend themselves better to virtual, like a certain kind of educational event, because then it would be recorded and then available for the advisor to put on their site or have to send to people, and perhaps only applies to a certain, let's say, Social Security or some topic that maybe only applies to a subset of their clients. Or if it's not really topic related, like I know one of the advisors I work with just invited me to a virtual wine tasting friends and family event. So that's more of a social event. And so I'm curious if you've seen some advisors have a more fun social event be an in-person thing versus a more technical learning type event.
The good news is it really is based on what that client or what those clients want. Because like you said, after COVID, there was really, or during COVID, right, there was this big boom of all these virtual entertainment opportunities that either didn't exist or we didn't know existed. And then that kind of ran its course and people are like, oh my God, like I'm tired of talking to my computer screen. I want to go back and be with people. And it's sort of like that pendulum swing, where now I think it's really, again, what does the client want? Do you find that most of your top clients are not in the area where you are, for example, and you choose not to go and have a small group dinner, because we've worked with advisors to do that, like go to where your people are. And we can help people find the virtual magician, the virtual wine tasting, the quizzo nights. So there's that. Yes, there's a lot of benefit to doing education in a virtual format from a repurposing point of view. But there's a lot of benefit of doing that in person as well. So it really just depends.
It depends. Yeah.
A rule of thumb is if you can be in person, host an in-person event. Even as Elyse alluded to, you go to where your people are. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they all have to come to your surrounding area. We've actually done this with clients where you map out, pull out maps and pull out where your pockets of clients are. And you'll start to see that more often than not, you have them in different clusters. So if your clients are based in a different city and you've got 3, 4, 5 of them, you create a little mini event, a mini dinner, and bring them together, either in an educational format or an in-person. And if you can't do that, then there is, we're fortunate that we're in a time where we do have the technology to support the virtual events, where if you can't travel to your people, we can do social events, we can do educational events online.
Yeah. No, I got the in-person thing. I was last weekend, actually, an advisor in the Chicago area brought me in to speak at his client luncheon. And there's something about them connecting with each other at a table, them talking up how they love Tony, how he's such a great advisor. And then we did an activity where we got them all up talking to each other about money, believe it or not, like having a big money conversation. And they were hugging each other by the end. These are people who didn't know each other before. So it's such a glow for him. And I felt like he told a beautiful story at the beginning, his why story. It just felt like he highlighted what's important to him with his clients that I don't think could have ever happened. Never would not have had the same impact in a virtual event as it had in this in-person event. It was really great.
And that's a great example. We don't want to deter anyone from doing virtual events if that's what speaks to your client. And if you do virtual events, there's several tips that we like to provide that makes it that elevates the experience. So having breakout rooms and personalized discussions, having those icebreakers and those introductions to all the little boxes that are on the square, creating those experience-based events that you can replicate in some form from in-person to virtual, the wine tasting pairing events, the magicians, the trivia, but again, really tailor it to your ideal client and the attendee, but make it personalized.
Yeah, I ran into an advisor who I've worked with the other night, and she during COVID started doing those kind of events, and the people that came connected so well. She's still doing them because she's created community
Right.
behind these events. And it wouldn't have happened, to your point, Angela, if she wasn't facilitating connections versus a talking head presenting about an annuity concept or something that is, that people are cooking their dinner or checking their email in the background. It was very interactive.
And that's the key word right there, Ellen. You hit the nail right on the head, community. Developing that community for you and your clients in between each other, whether that's virtual or whether that's in person. That's such a strong force, because then they feel connected and they have that relationship with you. They develop that relationship with you, the know, like, trust. And when you really peel back the onion, you're working with their money, their finances, their livelihood, their future, their children's future. And so it really all, as I talked about at the beginning, it's this circle that it comes full circle, because if you're not personalized, you're not getting to know them, they're not trusting you, they'll learn to trust somebody else, and you don't want that.
Yeah. So what are some of the mistakes? What I'm hearing indirectly as a mistake is having no interaction if it's virtual, or doing something that, like, when events don't work, are there certain common things that you see have happened that's the result, or other mistakes or missteps you've seen advisors do when they're planning or executing events?
I think, well, there's a ton. Like, we could literally write a whole book on that. But I think number one is that content piece, right? Who is this event actually for? So that's that first one. They make a mistake saying, I think they should know about Social Security, or I'm a tax expert, I'm going to talk about it. And then people don't show up and they can't figure out why. I think another mistake that people make is in their expectations. So you see over our shoulders, we have these rivers with the rocks in them. And that's our analogy for financial services marketing, right? Your marketing is a stream, and all of the tactics and things that you do are the rocks in your stream. So events are a rock in your stream. And it's part of that relationship building. One of the mistakes that we see advisors make is saying, I'm doing this event and I didn't get any clients. Therefore, it was a waste. It didn't work. Put your negative in however you want at the end of the sentence. So what we do when we work with our clients is we just readjust the mindset on that. And as we say, it's not about ROI. It's about our ROM, which is return on the moment. Your event is one of those rocks in the stream. So setting goals for that event will then help you really focus on success. As an example, an advisor does an event. Nobody's friend became a client, but did you increase your social media following? Are people saying, I want to learn about other events that you're doing because they want to build that relationship with you? Did you discover like a new part of town that either you maybe don't have clients in, or it's like an up and coming part of town? That could be a success. So it's really about how people measure success. And that's a mistake that we find that people make as well.
Yeah, I when I did client events, when I had my practice, I never was very successful of having them bring a qualified person who became, I don't know if I ever got a new client from it, but what I found is it built a bigger connection with my client who was there. I always sat them. I always loved doing table assignments because I would sit them with someone that I thought could be a good relationship for them. They got to know me better. When our kids were younger, they would come to the events, and then they got to see my kids grow older. My mother would come, my husband. So it was a very relationship building event. And so I really appreciate you talking about how you work with your clients to have the right expectation that it's part of a bigger plan. So if an advisor, though, they're investing money and time in these events, what is a way to leverage that relationship, whether afterwards or during the event, to make sure it's a good ROM, return on moment, for them?
One of our favorite sort of tricks, if you will, is it's about follow-up. Angela was talking about the wheel, right? Like the cycle and all of this. One of the things that we find is very important is to actually plan your follow-up while you're planning your actual event. So you know what kind of information you want to either get from the attendees, or how you can connect them. So like in the example you gave, saying, okay, like I was very strategic in how I put these people together. One of my goals as an advisor is to be a conduit, right? I want to connect people. So not only sitting them next to each other, but in that follow-up saying, hey, Ellen, I'm so glad you came to this event the other day, and I saw you were sitting next to Angela. Were you guys able to exchange contact information? Oh, I've asked her and she said it's okay for me to share that with you ahead of time. It's those sort of things. So to kind of say, like, where's the value? For us, a lot of times the value is in the follow-up. And as we all know, that's usually the hardest part because people don't do it.
Yeah.
When the magic happens.
Yeah, the advisor who did the event, this luncheon for his clients that I was mentioning, I thought he did a really good follow-up. There were some activities that happened during the event where people were thinking about their relationship with money, and there was follow-ups that he followed up with them on. that would then further his relationship. So he was like, hey, look, we talked about this. I'm going to follow up with you. So it was also, in addition to the networking, potentially depending on, I mean, if it's a magician, it's harder to have like a direct follow-up, but I would imagine that there's some way that the advisor who's introducing the magician, if we just use that, could say like, look, it's not magic. The work that we do, it might feel like it sometimes. So let's create, there's some way that he or she can draw that in to create some really deliberate action steps, I imagine, afterwards.
Absolutely. One of our favorite examples, we'll talk about your virtual wine tasting that you did with your folks. When an advisor is then doing follow-up, we are very much fans of pointed questions versus general questions. So for example, did you like the wine? Yes or no? You don't really get any information, but you say, so Ellen, in our virtual event, we had a Cabernet, a Merlot, and a Sauvignon Blanc. Which one of those was your favorite? And then you grimace and you go, well, I'm actually more of a Pinot Grigio kind of gal. The savvy advisor has that database open going, Pinot Grigio. When's Ellen's birthday? When is her anniversary with our firm? When is her child graduating from high school? It's a great data resource as well.
It's such a smart idea to get more intel on what someone's favorite thing is, or even if they're like, I don't really drink wine, then don't ever send them a bottle of wine. Right.
It's all of that, Ellen. And it's even those little mini conversations you have when you're in the event, the social conversations, if they happen to share, something about their children or a trip they're going on. We always advise our clients, our advisors, to talk to your stakeholders, anyone that's having conversations, put those little pieces of information in your memory bank. If you need to write it on a napkin or grab the notes out on your phone, whatever it might be. And then when you are back in the office, you can make those notes from those casual conversations. Oh, they're going on a trip to Greece to celebrate Ellen's, 30th anniversary. We should make a note of that and make sure we send something special. Or we had a magician, and Mark was saying when he was really stumped at what the magician was doing, that his 8-year-old has gotten into magic and he just can't, get his head around it. This is awesome. So maybe if the magician has, their favorite trick, or there's a book he recommends, you send that, or you put it in the database to send, when the child has a birthday, or those little moments, those little thoughts that you gather at the event. You really heard
I love
me.
that. I love that. And I'm also thinking, like, when I would do them, I had 3 or 4 people working for me at the time, when we all sat at different tables, to sort of really instruct your team that you're not only like doing the friendly thing, but you're also listening for those cues as well. So to really train them, and it's such a beautiful value add. So it's not like you're doing anything manipulative. You're really having people feel important. I love that.
It needs to be very intentional, casual from the attendee standpoint, that they're just having a casual conversation, but very intentional in the planning for the advisor and their team.
So if it's a virtual event, and the hard thing about virtual is you don't have those side conversations as much. You might have a little bit in a facilitated connection breakout, I suppose. But would you say then that comes, like in your example, from the follow-up question or survey that you would have? Are there other ways to elicit some of that extra intel on clients?
Yeah, I mean, follow-up and feedback is probably the lowest hanging fruit in all of that. A lot of it also depends on who your attendee is. If it's digital native group, you could maybe deal somehow in like hashtags and other social media exposures grab a quick screenshot and share this with what was your favorite wine, or shout out the sommelier because you're going to give them a little more juice. Like it really depends on who your people are. Again, virtual event, it is harder, but there are definitely ways to do that. Most of that comes in your follow-up, not necessarily in those little like you said, like those little side conversations. Yeah. You could be really intentional what your breakout room, well, you should be like, what is your topic, and making sure that you have either staff, your stakeholders, your team, everybody's in a different room. It could be, if some of our clients have like client advisory boards, and they can kind of almost be like your boots on the ground, if you will. There's a lot of creative ways to do it, but you definitely have to get creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I should probably mention too is if you are doing a virtual event, make sure, if you're under compliance regulations, make sure you understand what the recording and the chat abilities are, because many compliance departments do not permit you to be able to record, and they also don't permit you to write in the chat. You have to do your verbal Q&A, which means you need to shift how you're going to gather the information and be very diligent on capturing what those answers are, so you can then turn it back into your follow-up.
Yeah. Yes, I'm making that face. Those compliance departments is not the same for every firm, or
right. But it's important, because if you always check with it's like a doctor.
Yes.
Check with your doctor before we give advice. Check with your compliance department before you implement any of these tips.
And the other side is, don't use that as an excuse to think you can't do something till you check.
Exactly.
Because I find that advisors are like, no. And I'm like, you know what? Things change all the time, and they're going to continue to change. So, yes, but that's a very important point. I know you two like to talk about bringing in some type of community involvement into events. Can you talk a little bit more about that, why that's helpful and how that can be done?
When you know your ideal client and what is important to them, most people like giving back. Most people have a thing that is important to them. And when you do your due diligence, again, it's that community piece of it, which is you may find you have a subsection of your ideal clients that are all about the SPCA, or they're all about youth sports, or they're all about your charity here. I mean, again, it's that like double connection point of view. And we have also found a lot of times that making it an activity versus a donation, again, it's that moment opportunity. It's an opportunity for people to get together. Some people, again, let me just write you a check. Like, that's not my thing. Those aren't great events for those people. But for the people who really want to either roll up their sleeves or connect with other people, and then they feel really good about it. So that's sort of like an added bonus.
At least you're talking about, like, if there's a service type event you do with your team and invite clients to and say, hey, do you want to work at this food bank with me, or book bank, or paint a school? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. And it doesn't even have to be, hey, our team is doing this, do you want to join us? Again, it's as you're thinking about your event strategy for the year, and you've gathered information from, we use the term ideal client, but those clients that you want to replicate, the ones that you would hate to lose, and what do they like to do? Then it's like, hey, our June event is going to be cleaning up a school, because we have a lot of people who value education. So Definitely doing a thing is a great opportunity. And, we hear from advisors a lot, like, I don't do events because they're really expensive.
Mm.
And a lot of these community events, they're not. And they have great impact.
Yeah.
They really do. And there's really three ways, because I know there are a lot of people out there right now scratching their heads going, that sounds really cool, but how do I start? How do I do that? And there's three things we like to have you think about is there a charity or philanthropy that is near and dear to you, your family, or your team? Then there is there a charity or philanthropy or a cause that's really near and dear to one of our really top valued A++ clients? We'd really like to support them and their passion and their mission, and ask them, if there are any events, we'd love to, as a firm, support that, and we can invite other clients, so you can develop an event based on that. Or if your clientele is very centralized in your area and your community, what's important to your community? Is there a local food bank? Is there an annual school supply drive? Is there an annual toy drive? Is there a breast cancer walk? Is there something going on in the community that they may already participate in, but bringing that community together for the firm, it's always very impactful. So if you don't know where to start, but you want to be philanthropic, it can be either something you're passionate about, your client's passionate about, or something for the community. And again, it doesn't have to be big. It could be a 10
I'd offer
10
up
people.
an additional way to do that.
Yeah.
So we always gave gifts at our client events. And when I first started doing them, it was all like swag with our company name on it. And I'm like, as my clients got older and I got older, I'm like, no one wants more stuff, and like, do they really want something that says strategic financial designs on it, even if it was nice? No. So what I started to do, because one of my big values and words is generosity, we would do our client gift in some way that served a charity. So it could be in the Chicago area, there's a place called Misericordia, and they work with developmentally disabled adults, and they have a beautiful bakery there. So we got cookie boxes one year. Awesome. Or I can't even think of other things we've done. And sometimes our speakers were even philanthropically related. So I love the idea. And if I were to do that kind of client event again, I would love to have people actually serving in a way. But there was a woman who had a social impact business where she had women from around the world, artisans, making stuff, and she had it's called Global Girlfriends, and they would I had her as a speaker talking about, she wrote a book, we bought everybody her book, and some of the giveaways, we would do trivia questions, and we'd always have gifts, and the gifts were things from her store, which actually I still have some that I need to give to somebody.
That's funny. Before we got on this conversation, we were teasing Ellen about being a mind reader. So I'm going to come back to that, because I was just working on our newsletter that is getting ready to go out, and we are recording this in a time where a lot of our clients and people in the industry are doing their Galentines and planning their Galentines events. And one of the things that I was thinking about and working on in this newsletter was this idea of how do we add a charitable spin to that event so that it's not just pink and champagne-y. And again, what appeals to women? Like, we are nurturers, we are caregivers, we want to support others. If women are your target, especially for an event like that, like, put a charitable piece into that. Put that into your invitation. Like, we will be doing a paddle raise for XYZ, or bring socks because we'll be doing XYZ. There's a lot of ways that you can tie that into the other things that you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. And God knows there's plenty of need now for all different
Yes.
kinds of things. This is fabulous. So if people watching and listening to this want to learn more about how you work with advisors to create more exceptional events, have a strategy behind this, how can they learn more about you and your company?
So there's a couple ways. Our website, event-advisors.net. And you'll find information on there. You can actually sign up for this newsletter. We call it Valuable Views. It comes out twice a month because we know everybody's email boxes are full, where we share lots of these ideas. We are very active on LinkedIn, both individually and through Event Advisors. So I think those links will magically appear here. So please connect with us that way. And the crux of what we do is to really make this easier for people who, let's face it, aren't event planners. So we are actually getting ready to launch what we call our signature event system, where it's all of our timelines, our planning timelines. Angela talked about like the questions that you should ask your clients. We have an emergency kit checklist. What's that thing where you go, wish I had that. All of that comes in, and we will have, we have a special discount code, HM25 off, for people that are interested in learning about this and purchasing it for your team, so that you can really understand how to do strategic events. And being prepared allows you actually more flexibility in the end than not being prepared at all.
And what we've done is we've created this timeline with everything that we have experienced, and all the little things you need to do, and some things you won't need to do for an educational event, some things you want to do for a social event. And it's in a template, 8 weeks before, 6 weeks before, day of, follow up, and peppering that all throughout. And you can customize it and make your own template and use it for all of your events and create, this is my client appreciation template, this is my virtual event template, and it's literally event by dots, painting by dots, create an event by dots. And it's all these things that have kept us up at night, have kept, event implementers and clients up at night. It's all there. It's
beautiful. And how generous of you to offer a 25% discount for the Horse's Mouth viewers and listeners. Thank you for that. And yes, go ahead and connect with Elyse and Angela on LinkedIn. I've witnessed how involved they are on LinkedIn, and then go to event-advisors.net to learn more about them. I'm going to go sign up for the newsletter. And for all of you, so thank you, ladies, for being here. Really grateful. This is such a fun conversation. And for all of you listening and watching, thank you for being here. Again, my name is Ellen Rogin. You can learn more about me at ellenrogin.com. That's ELLENROGIN.com. And if you go to ellenrogin.com / Horse's Mouth, you can download my special report, which it currently is about extraordinary advisors. And I am very shortly offering a new special report on how to communicate with more impact and have bigger, better money conversations with people. So thank you for watching and listening. And the question to ponder today is, how are you going to make your next event so incredibly awesome for you and your clients, and create that glow around your business? And remember,